If you're in school, especially if you're in college, you're probably at a point in life where up until now, you haven't had a full-time job, so you don't have too much in savings, and you may or may not have student loans as well. Today, I'll talk about why it's so important for college students to be financially literate, and more importantly, I'll touch on 4 practical tips that you can implement as a financially literate college student. You'll be able to set yourself up well as you graduate and navigate your first full-time job. Hi everyone, my name is Carly. I graduated from undergrad 3.5 years ago, and ever since I joined the workforce, I've been actively taking steps to learn about money so that I can be financially literate. This video is a reflection of all of the learnings I've had as a university student. On this channel, we talk all things personal finance, modeling, and lifestyle, so if you're interested in any of those topics, please do subscribe so you won't miss any of my videos. Let's first talk about why financial literacy is so important for students. On average, 64% of students have student loan debt, and at the end of 2023, the average student loan debt was $37,090. That's a lot of money, I think, for now. For the average person, college is still pretty important, but also for the average person then, college is a huge financial investment. Many students rely on loans to cover tuition, books, and living expenses, and all of these add up to over tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars over 4 years. That's only counting undergraduate loans. If you choose to go into further higher education, the sum is likely so much more. This is debt that on average takes 20 years to pay off. And I understand that in reality, people may be able to pay off their debt sooner, but they just choose not to because some student loan interest rates are quite low. In 2020, for example, for about 2 to 3 years, I didn't even touch my student loans because of the COVID-19 student loan forbearance. This was a time where student loans were at 0% interest. Some student loans might also have groups within the loan where a subset of money has a higher interest rate than another subset within that loan. So for example, it might make financial sense to really aggressively pay off group A of your loan that is at 6%. Then for group B of your loan that is at 3% interest rate, you might use the money that you would have spent paying off the loan to otherwise invest in an ETF that has historically returned 8 to 10% back every year. But given that student loans are a huge burden, it's so important for students to really be on top of their finances so they know exactly what their loan terms and interest rates are. Personally, as an 18-year-old going into college, I didn't fully understand terms and conditions of loans. I didn't even know what was considered a good interest rate. So without proper financial literacy, if you don't understand these aspects of your loan, you could end up taking out more loans than you need or more loans than you realize that you did. In the future, then, this can lead to challenges in paying off these loans. So being financially literate allows you to make solid decisions around your finances when it comes to managing your debt. Right after you graduate college, you'll also start to make substantial money for the first time in your life. Not only do you likely have debt, but if you're an average college student, then when you graduate, you'll also get a job. This is the first time probably in your life that you will start making a substantial amount of money, enough to fully support yourself. A huge aspect of financial literacy is knowing how to manage your money well. When I earned my first paycheck, it felt so good knowing that I could support myself. I could pay my own rent, buy my own groceries, and just buy whatever I wanted to within the means of my income. It felt really good to be independent. But after all of the housing and food and overall living costs are taken care of, we have to be cognizant of how we budget the rest of our money, because how we set ourselves up while we're young will really shape the way that our financial futures will play out. Our actions will compound as the years and decades go by. This generally looks like building the foundation for a good credit score, building good saving and investing habits, and taking advantage of the power of compound interest. The money you save, and especially the habits that you build in your early 20s, will really shape how your future will turn out. And with that being said, here are 4 actions that you should focus on to be financially literate, especially if you're in college. The first one is setting financial goals. I don't know about you, but for me, it's really hard to take action towards something if I don't know what my goal is. When I just graduated college and I was focused on saving really aggressively, I didn't necessarily know what I was saving for, but I made a goal for myself to give myself as many options as possible in the near future, so 3 to 5 years down the line. The way I knew how to give myself options then and now is to basically have money. I didn't have a good idea of what future me would want, so basically I wanted to save enough money to give myself in the future the option to buy a house or travel for a year or just buy whatever else made sense for future me. Having a really strong grasp of how you envision yourself using the sum of money that you will save will be really important when it's not as easy to save money. This might be especially relevant when you want to buy something you didn't previously budget for, or you might want to order Uber Eats when you have food at home. But we are willing to make those sacrifices because our goal takes precedent over our fleeting desires right now. With my personal goal in mind, I was able to learn to build habits and take action that would eventually help me reach this goal. For me personally, I don't really have a number in mind, but it was basically just to accumulate maybe a year or two of my expenses in an accessible account. So basically savings or sellable investments. And the second part of that was basically do everything I mentioned, saving and investing, while still maxing out my retirement accounts. And your goal might be different. Maybe it's to pay off all of your student loans or save up for a home. It might even be the same as mine, but whatever your financial goal is, aim high and or set tiers. So once you meet a goal, you know what you will be working toward next. My next tip is to be aware of your credit score. Many of us are also opening credit cards for the first time when we're college aged. How we choose to use our credit cards will really shape our financial futures. In particular, if we go into credit card debt, we will dig ourselves into a hole before we even had the opportunity to start building wealth. This is not only because credit card debt tends to be really high interest rate debt, but it'll also lower our credit scores if we do not pay off our balance in full every month. In the future, this will impact the types of loans we can get and also the interest rate on these loans. If we have a poor credit score, the interest rates on future loans will definitely be higher because we are deemed a risk to lend money to based off of our past actions of not paying off our credit card debt. I do think that if you open a student credit card, you might have a little bit more leeway because I think sometimes interest rates can be really low or maybe non-existent for student credit cards. But overall, you should never open a credit card if you cannot pay off your balance in full every single month. On the flip side, if you can use a credit card well, you can not only build your credit score, but also get perks like points for travel or cashback. But again, if you cannot use a credit card well, which basically means paying off your debt in full every month, then it can have really negative effects on your financial future. I have a video where I go more in depth on credit cards and credit scores here, and you can watch that after you finish this video. Part of financial literacy is understanding the importance of setting aside money for an unexpected expense that may come up. Life happens, and for just about every one of us, it's not if an unexpected expense will occur, but when. In college, many of us have either no emergency fund or a very small emergency fund. And we might not have that much cash because we haven't started our jobs yet, especially if we took a break or a trip between graduation and our jobs. This is the case even more so. As soon as we start making money, it's really important to save up 3 to 6 months worth of our monthly expenses. This will give us a good buffer for many emergencies or unexpected expenses that may pop up. The risks of not having an emergency fund include potentially having to go into debt to pay off an expense we didn't previously budget for. This could put us in a cycle of debt, particularly high interest rate debt that will set us back financially because we will be focused on paying off the debt instead of growing our wealth. If you're financially literate, you will negotiate your job offer. A study from Glassdoor in 2023 showed that 54%, so over half of professionals did not negotiate their most recent salary. A separate study showed that 87% of people who negotiated their offer got at least some of what they were asking for. Most of the time, when you are given a first offer, you are being lowballed. Companies give you an offer expecting you to negotiate, so you should do just that. I will say I negotiated the job I ended up taking out of college unsuccessfully. I was entering my company as part of a cohort, so I think they were very adamant on making sure that everyone had the same compensation package going in. But I did advocate for myself and I got experience doing it. If you can successfully negotiate a higher income starting out, then you will be able to have a higher earning potential over the course of your career. An article from Business Insider showed that negotiating your starting salary and continuing to negotiate every few years or when you start a new job could make a $1 million difference in your lifetime earnings. If the courage to ask for some more money every time I have the opportunity to do so is worth $1 million in my lifetime, I will do it every single time. The worst thing that will happen is that I get told no, but at the very least, I practiced the skill of negotiating. If you want some guidance around negotiating, I would highly recommend the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. The author is a former international hostage negotiator for the FBI. I think it's a great book to learn about the psychology behind aligning yourself and the other party toward the same goal. In this context, it's to get you to work for the company for what both of you is a fair compensation. The impact of you negotiating your salary really does compound over the course of 40 years of your career. And again, the worst that can happen is the company says no, and if they ever rescind their offer, which is highly unlikely, then it's 100% not a company that you would have wanted to work for anyway, because that means that they punish you for advocating for yourself. You will build up a strong financial foundation if you take the steps to be financially literate as a college student. Many college students have student loan debt and are also at a point where they're about to make a full-time income for the first time in their lives. So, as a financially literate college student, you'll understand what your goals are. You'll be aware of your credit score and the actions that will impact it both positively and negatively. You'll build out an emergency fund, and most importantly, you'll negotiate your first job right out of college. The earlier you build up these habits of financial literacy, the more discipline you'll have to be able to meet your financial goals. I started building these habits right when I graduated, and it's become a lifestyle for me. I don't consider it hard because I still give myself what I want within reason. I also know what my financial goals are, and I keep that in mind as I make the decisions that will help me continue to build my financial foundation. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel, and you would also enjoy this video next on easy financial habits to build for long-term wealth.